yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? Um, these days, you're just waiting for something to happen, I think. I think something is going to happen. I really do. I think something is on the way. I know I've been kind of following this lad for a while, and I've heard there's a specific kind of happening on the 23rd of September. Now that is, well, not very long away now. It's September very, very soon. Was it 30th of August today? So there you go. So with September comes this threat of this happening, and it could be a false flag event like 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, something like that again, to, you see, to instigate a war on a big scale, not rather than just it's been going on a big scale actually in the Middle East since then. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, the Arab Spring was something else, anyway, Syria, Lebanon, that was a Saudi. Sorry, I'm failing to name all the Middle Eastern countries where there's been wars, and North African, but there's been war raging in that region ever since, making loads of money because obviously they need arms and munitions and feeding and clothing, and all of those companies are owned by the people who actually, point sticks at people and go, "Are you what the fucking starting?" And then they have the wars, and it's always the same. So, and they're the kind of minions of the Mr. Big who really knows what's going on, and they're telling him to do this anyway. That they're actually set up to do it, to keep unrest, to keep suffering. That's what it seems to be, suffering. Humans must be suffering, I think that we only have it so good in Britain because we've got the royal family, and that this jewel, as she sees it, and I love this place actually. I've got nothing against the country, where it is. I think it's beautiful. Where I live, it's beautiful anyway. So, but she has places all over it, all over the British Isles. So she has to sort of regard it as all her playground, and must be all defended, even from every little bit of it, even though it's in the Southern Ocean, that must be defended as well to the end, Anyway, so, excuse me. So the main threat is actually against the United States, of course, because they're the ones with the big guns, the big muscles, and they're the ones who could really upset the apple cart, because China, I think, has vowed to protect North Korea if it was, invaded, threatened, whatever. I think they're backing North Korea, so that's big, two massive superpowers pitting their wits against each other. But I know there's no nuclear weapons. The nuclear weapons are, it's total nonsense. if if Hiroshima had been and Nagasaki had been really bombed with an atomic bomb, then the radiation would still be lethal now. It would affect everything around it for miles and miles. So no, and you can see. I mean, they're flying an aeroplane. When they dropped the first one, I think it was the first one, maybe both of them, they took a photograph of it. If you, I've got a job for you. Just go and take a photograph of an exploding atomic bomb. Now, as it was the first one, maybe he didn't really understand how harmful it could have been, or it is, or on paper. I don't think there was much. I can't remember any reference to the dangers of radiation. It was supposed to be constructed without anybody knowing. Nobody actually found out until it was tested or used that it even existed. But they thought the Germans were building one. It all added intrigue and mystery, and it set it up, this nuclear thing, as a real threat for the Cold War to exist since the war, the Second World War, all the way to, well, the wall falling, but it hadn't really gone away because the weapons were still there, and there's still buttons, and then it got even worse because they then presumed that the Russians, because now they're in a capitalist economic structure rather than communist, then some entrepreneurial Russian chap, Ina, would sell, or somehow get one and sell one, or all of them, to somebody that's up to no good, like an evil villain from James Bond film or something, or even Dr. Evil. So yeah, that's probably even worse. Not like the control of government. You'd hope that there would have. It would only be. It could be set off by two people or something. Maybe one of them is mad, but the other one isn't. So it's never going to happen. But if it's just left down to some, complete deranged psycho idiot, then who knows? But, well, do your own research by all means. Absolutely do it. But when I did, there's too much fakery around all the nuclear thing. You look at the early explosions. That's one of the giveaways. They're obviously made. They're made to look. This mushroom cloud thing. All big explosions have look like that when they in the process of the explosion. And the wind and it's all the same. There is a huge amount of change. Change. That's the word. Very quickly around an explosion. So it doesn't matter whether it's atomic or it was packed with TNT, which they say one of the islands was TNT and the other one was the atomic bomb. But probably they were both TNT, and they both told the soldiers the other one would pack in the bomb. But, And I remember Updina Walker, the Native American lady, she said her dad was there when they did bomb test, and he could see the bones through his own fingers or something when the bomb went off. Well, when I was a kid, when I was a child, I was never a baby goat. When I was a child, as you do, you get a torch under the covers, under the bedclothes, no duvets in those days, and you could shine put your torch right up to your fingers, and you could see the bones. I don't know what was going on there, but it was very dark, of course, because you were underneath the bedclothes, and it was pitch dark because there were heavy blankets and a sheet, blankets, and a quilt and a bedspread, the whole works. It was frosty on the inside of my window when I woke up in the winter time. But if you put a torch the back of your hand through your fingers, you could actually see your bones. So it's just, all it is light coming through, and as long as there's enough light, if it's still light around you, you'd need a lot of light for you to see that, because it would have to cancel out and then increase itself. You get what I'm saying, really, I think. But yeah, that's why, because it would be a magnificent flash of light. So suddenly everything else would be black around you. Your eyes wouldn't have time to focus. You would still be seeing the same amount of light. So that's why he saw what he saw. But so what I'm saying is, when or if something does happen on or around the 23rd of this month, September coming up in this year, he keeps on about Seattle and a nuclear missile, or certainly a missile. It doesn't have to be nuclear, but it could be. But I think it is nuclear, and it's loads of blackout. No electric power lost all around America. So that's the prediction, and he's been right about things before. Just like Martin Leakey, he's onto something. He's onto the same thing, and that's why it's been ramped up. That's why there is something going on, and there's some kind of alignment, with the wandering stars. They only do this every few thousand years. I don't know how many, whether it was 2, 3, 5, I can't remember now, but it is a very significant event if you're into that sort of thing. Obviously I'm not, but I know they're not light years away. That was a lot of nonsense, but wandering stars were never light years away, but I know they're who knows what they are, but they're certainly not planets. But I'm going to have to end this now. This is the thing with this 15-minute ban. But all I've done is go on about, babble on about what I always sort of babble on about, usually. Which, if you met me on a train, you'd get off at the next station. In fact, I met somebody on a train once, and I didn't get off at the next station. I had to go where I was going, but I kind of wanted to. But I was only a quite young lad, and he very much like Glenn Miller, this fella. Really, he was nothing aggressive about him, but I could just not really, deal with Glenn Miller at that time. I was more of a Buddy Holly fan myself at that time, maybe.